All right, we're just popping them off here. I guess this video will be called Grease Trap. The old code 6211. In the new one, they've added an exception. It looks like they're saying HEI integral flow controls restricted device installed accessible location according to the manufacturer installation. I don't know what they're saying about this, but I do think we have done a lot of restaurants and gas stations. Remember the old days when you could drive your car into a gas station, the guy would put it on a lift, change your oil? That's gone away, huh? And I remember back then we used to build sand traps, waste oil interceptors. We would actually order solid block. I think they were 3x6 or something like these solid little blocks, and get in a hole, dig a hole, and build the interceptor to catch the waste oil from, let's say, a gas station. And we would have to figure out where to put the inlet, the outlet, the invert, and that would go out. We would bury a waste tank outside, and that's where the guy would come up with the waste oil truck and pump it out. This is going back before grease interceptors were a big deal. In restaurants, we would build those too, at a block. And then along came PDI and all that, and they build them, and then you had to have that label on it that made it, well, I just said PDI. There it is, PDI. So they have to have that approved plate on it. I think it was a money-making deal. That's just my 2 cents. I agree that you want to keep the grease out of the sewer, but they really went hog wild with. But anyway, so the addition is listed HGI interceptor. Listed means it's got that plate on it. You know what that means. Integral flow controls, that's the flow T with the hole in it. It's always been hard to explain to restaurant owners that you got to run the water slow through the grease trap. If not, you're going to blow the trap and it's useless. I would say probably half, they're getting better, probably half or more of people who run restaurants just dump the sink. Because if you remember, the other update was years ago, I keep saying years ago, you had to add up all of the 3-compartment sink. And what happened was the grease trap was the size of a truck. So to get the little ones under the sink, they went back to, I believe, you would use the wash compartment and the rinse. The wash and the rinse, yeah, they leave the sanitize out. So that made the trap smaller, right? And they went down to what, 20 GPM, something like that? Or, pounds. So now you can slide those little boxes, I call them bread boxes, under the sink. But what was the problem with that? Well, they would overflow all the time. So it's kind of useless if you got this device to stop grease from getting in the drain. You dump it, blow the trap, it goes all over the floor. Along comes the worker and pushes it in the damn floor drain. So, useless. What I used to do and still do is, those basket drain controls with the long lever? They're expensive, probably now. H.B. Smith used to make them, and when we were building restaurants and still building restaurants, I have that as part of the spec. 3-compartment sinks or anything going through a grease trap has to have that lever type drain. A lot of people don't want to go for it. My thought was, if you're building a restaurant and you're worried about a $200 basket on the sink, I don't know what you're doing. But with that lever type basket control, you could meter the water coming out of the sink and not overflow the bowl, especially when it got smaller. So you imagine back in, when this became an issue, into the 70s, into the 80s, they started doing grease trap, really getting hard on it. And we were building them underground. So if you go in a restaurant, even nowadays, big restaurants, they're under the concrete. Or under the masonry floor. So now it looks like this exception is saying, installed accessible located. Well, that is in the manufacturer's installation. So it looks like they're saying people aren't reading the installation. This is a given for me? Well, put in the comments if this is a given for you. You know you have to get the lid off. You know you have to, these things have to be serviced. Now you have the townships here in the Garden, at least, and probably I bet in New York it's the same thing, in the Empire. Here in the Garden, once a year, those restaurateurs have to come in and get a licensed master to come in there, check that grease trap, make sure it's working. And I believe the reason for that was the restaurant folks got tired of falling on the floor or sliding across the floor. And I've seen where I go to inspect it, lift the lid, and the baffle's gone. Or someone took a hammer, or I've seen someone take a drill and drill a hole through the flow restrictor. And the townships, of course, you know, that stuff's forensic. And I've had to do that too, where I could trace it right back to where it came from. And the fines are enormous. They do not play, at least here, where we're at. So put in the comments what you got on this update. It looks like they're trying to make sure that people read the instructions. I don't know. All right, see you.